Y'all, today, we get to go even deeper on this concept of getting better together. And I'm here with one of my favorite people, Debrena Jackson Gandy. Hello, Debrena. How are you? So you and I are both transformational coaches, and today we're going to start with just a conversation around three things. We're going to talk about what's the difference between transformation and motivation, because we're really asking people to go deeper, right? To really get healthier, happier, wealthier, and wiser. That requires a transformation. So we're going to talk about transformation. We're going to talk about truly awareness, and then we're going to go deeper and talk about beliefs. So are you ready?
Of course.
So let's talk first about transformation.
I live in, of course I'm ready to talk about transformation.
Of course. So let's talk about the difference between transformation and motivation, right?
Yes. Well, this is one of the reasons I'm so excited about this series, because most of us are familiar with motivation, motivational speakers, going to the large hotel ballroom gatherings, having a speaker on the stage that gets us emotionally excited. And
Right.
from that emotional excitement, there are some things that energy can cause to change of behavior or thinking. So motivation has been a really important force in many of our lives, but we're now talking about the next level. So
Right.
motivation means that you are getting emotionally stirred up and excited and activated. And from that energy, you now are generating some changes or being propelled to fulfill on goals or a plan or a strategy or a course of action that you might not have had the energy to complete on before. But
Right.
what can tend to happen with motivational speakers, or motivation is when we are away from the motivational source, our energy also starts to diminish and return back to where it was, 3 to 6 weeks or less as we
Relax.
separate up the motivational source. So now we're talking about transformation. This is where we're talking about the PhD level, not the high school level. Even though the high school level is necessary, right? And so
Totally.
transformation now is not just improving. It isn't just making some behavioral changes. It isn't just trying to think differently. It isn't just fulfilling on some goals or carrying through on a personal plan. Now we're talking about the deeper work that's invisible to the eye, looking at our core beliefs, which really functions like our core programming, and really becoming a different creature. And I like to use the example of caterpillar to butterfly. So motivational work is about how can I make the caterpillar better? Transformation is about caterpillar to butterfly. A new creature has been born with new DNA, new ways of thinking, moving, showing up, different body even.
Yeah.
So that's what this series is really preparing us for and getting us familiar with, is transformation. And that's my lane. And that's why healing is another part if you're talking about transformational work as well.
Yes, I love it. And so when I use this language, this concept of the living powerfully experience, it's an experience, right? Living powerfully means you are no longer able to revert back when shenanigans happens, when somebody has said something or done something that might steer you in a direction that might make you fall off the wagon, so to speak. You're like, no, I don't do that anymore. I don't even show up. I don't even remember that girl, right? Who used to behave that way. So transformation is not for everyone. And when I say that, you got to be ready. So when I started out by saying, are you ready? Are you ready to get better? Right? Do you want to get better? Are you ready to get better? Are you ready to transform is even another question. It's a deeper question. Are you truly ready? Let's talk about why everyone doesn't make it. Everyone isn't ready. Let's talk about that.
Well, here, remember, motivational model is where there's an external source, person usually, or event that is providing the stimulation that kicks you into a level of energy to carry out your plans, or to even bust up some old things that stopped you when it was just you operating off your own energy. Okay. So that can produce powerful results, right? A lot of people, just to have the energy of someone or something outside of them that now can boost them to go ahead and do some stuff that they, on their own volition, didn't have enough fuel to do. That's useful. Now, with transformation, there's a shift from external motive and motivation to now you are generating from your will and your commitment and your desire for deep and lasting change. That's why so many people don't make the cut, because they now have to generate and operate from their own internal generator, not just depending on an external motivator. And that's a muscle and a capability and a capacity that a lot of us just have not developed. It's a muscle that's flabby and weak, but it's called on and it's necessary if you are saying yes to being ready for transformation. That's why it's a question for people to entertain. It is not for the faint-hearted.
And the beauty of this is we are leaving breadcrumbs. So if you're getting ready, we're going to talk about those pre-steps to getting ready, as well as what it takes to truly transform. So we're doing all the things. So the first thing we talk about when we talk about this living powerfully experience with positive intelligence, we say we're doing it together. It's better when you transform together, because that motivation comes from within, but you also see others that are transforming as well. And you're like, I can do that. Like, we can do this together. So I love it. But we also know that it is absolutely, it's an experience that you are going to have as a leader of leaders. We're going to assume that you know that what you do will influence others. Like when we show up, right? We show up in a way that we get to transform ourselves, but people see us, people around us see us. There's that contagion effect, right? So it's so much better together, because when we get better, those around us also get better as well. Huge power in that.
Well, there's two other things. Yes, indeed, I agree. And two other things I want to mention that are distinct transformation and why it is so powerful and why it does ripple outward and affect other people. When we say transform, we're changing the form, right? Trans and form. Well, what are the forms we're changing? It's the inner forms that shape our responses, our perceptions, our interpretations, how we see ourselves and other people. So we're not just changing behavior, we are actually going in to change the inner forms. That's deeper work. Secondly, when it's transformational work, not just motivational, which has its place in space, then you don't revert and you don't regress. That's when there's a behavior change, something in your environment changes, you get stressed, you have a death in a family, whatever it is, something that creates a stressor, and then you slide back into default. Well, with transformation, there's no old default. There's the new reality, and you're living, dealing with, and engaging with whatever life is presenting from this new creature space. There's nothing to slide back to. And so a lot of times we have that, people go, oh, I backslid. Well, that's development has happened. That means improvement has happened, but that is not transformation. So those are just a couple of distinctions that I wanted to also point out. And that's why when a person is a yes to doing and actually does the work that creates and results in transformation, you're a different person. So therefore, as others are interacting with you, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's on the college campus, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your volunteer work, whether it's at church, wherever you show up and are present, then those around you are now engaging with a different person, which means they have to engage differently. And because it's from an elevated, more evolved, free, and more loving space, it calls everybody up to a higher level. Isn't that amazing?
It's so wonderful. It's so that's why I'm so excited about this. Is when I bring in your voice and the voices of others, this is about us leveling up, right? Becoming new creatures. Literally, I'll move forward because I know we got a lot we want to cover. So that's the what? That's the distinction between transformation and motivation. Right. And we're also going to talk about like the how. How do you do it? So this isn't just a generic conversation. This is the roadmap, people. So one thing that we want to focus on is awareness. And there are also levels of awareness, right? And so when I had people take last week, we were exposing people to the saboteur assessment. Right. And that does a few things. But as you know, we had a number of people in the room that were talking about truth telling. Right. So when we talk about awareness, there's going to be three things we're going to focus on. Number one is going to be self-awareness, right? Truth telling to ourselves. Number two is going to be this concept of like actually being aware of how we interact with others, right? This concept of really observing how we show up. And then third, we're going to focus on actually not only seeing what we're doing differently, seeing what's happening rather, but then choosing to do differently. So that's how we're going to focus on the concept of awareness. We're going to focus on number one first. Level one awareness is really that self-awareness. You're identifying the saboteurs. Talk a little bit about this concept of preparing to transform and why being true to yourself, seeing yourself clearly, why that is so important and what people can do to truly see themselves differently.
Well, I was just speaking at a gathering in the Bay Area, actually. I just got back last night. And it was one of the book clubs that's reading my third book. And so I was in town and I got to come to this book club and be the guest. And one of the questions that was asked during the Q&A, because that was really the whole purpose, like, I'm the author, I'm here, what are the questions we have? One of the women said, I think one of the reasons that I avoid and run away from doing my healing work is because I think of I need fixing. And I said, isn't that interesting? First of all, you're a human, not an appliance. It's broken to need fixing. And I said, but here's a way to reframe it. And so this is really for all of us. If we are contemplating, am I really up for doing this higher and deeper work, given the amazing fruit it can produce for me? And instead of looking at it like we need fixing, we're not broken, but it's about continual upward evolution. If you had a plant and you put it in some soil and you came back and checked it for 3 weeks, there was no growth, you would be worried. Why? Because in the plant's design is the desire for growth and to grow. Yes? Well,
yes.
Guess what? Humans, we have been designed in a very similar manner to be evolving to higher and higher levels, given how we have been created and all that we've been equipped with. So the desire is already buried deep in our hearts to evolve. So now it's, I need fixing. I don't want to do the work because that means I need more fixing. How about in this beautiful, amazing, textured adventure called life, I get to choose to keep exploring higher and higher levels of my human experience and my life's experience. And I'm a masterpiece. And a masterpiece is not created in a microwave. It takes time, patience, love, and attention, right? Well, we're a living masterpiece. And if we spoke to the great artists that were working with metal and working with creating statues and the great paintings, and they said, oh, I did this in 2 months, it would immediately negate that it was a masterpiece because it was done in a fast way, right? So a masterpiece is a journey of loving, continual elevation, because we're a living masterpiece. So that is the shift from, oh my God, I'm avoiding my healing work because that means I need more and more fixing, to wait, there are higher and higher levels that I have the opportunity to grow up elevation up into, and then after that level, there's still another level. And after that level, there's still another level. That creates excitement in life. And then you move in instead of avoiding.
Yes, I love that. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Yes, yes, and so as we think about looking in the mirror, many times we don't want to see right the opportunities. And I love your example. This concept of being aware, choosing differently, deciding that I'm going to see myself right as a first step is where am I? The second step is really how do we connect with others? This idea of observing where we are and then noticing right the impact on others. Talk a little bit about that for us.
Well, I really appreciate this tool that you gave us in the last couple of weeks, the Saboteur Assessment free tool. Literally took 5 minutes, and it gives you this interpretation. And it helps you to identify areas that could be a tripwire for you, areas that could be undermining what you really desire in terms of your interaction and engagement with other people and in just how you are in your life. So first of all, to know that I have some saboteurs and be able to name them, then that's the first level. And instead of saying, I don't want to know because it means I need fixing. No, I want to see what's in the dark. That could be a blind spot. That could be hindering or impeding me unknowingly. And I want to just shed light on it. So willing to just shed light on what may be in the dark. No judgment. Just let it be revealed, right? It's okay. Now, let me move on to observing and noticing. Now that I've got language, I've got some things I've identified. Let me go back into my life and notice how it's playing out. Notice when and where it's showing up. Oh, interesting. I didn't realize. What do you know? I had one of my mentees that was on a call with me because I do my mentees that are out of town. I do a Zoom call with them instead of in person. And I noticed that she was saying like. It was just peppering her language. And I had never noticed it to be that frequent before. So I said, listen, what I'm going to start doing is each time you say like out of context, I'm going to go, I'm going to go, and so she was talking and I was like, she was like, what? I said, you weren't even aware of how much you were inserting light into your conversation. Now she can be what? She can notice it now that she has a tool to help her be aware of how much she's peppering her language with light, which wasn't serving her, which made her sound really young and like an airhead. I said, knock it off. Why is that in your language now? What is going on? Right. And so, at any rate, the saboteur assessment is very similar. It's our so we can start seeing where it's showing up, so we can ourselves, right?
Yes. So
this is all the groundwork for preparing for deeper transformation work. But that observe and notice is really the next step after we have the awareness of the saboteurs or of how we're showing.
Now let's talk a little bit about the because I love that because it's like the little ding, right? We talk about this concept of taking your hand off of a hot stove, right? Because your saboteurs are those things that might prevent you from having your maximum performance, your maximum relationships, right? Your maximum well-being. They just may be causing you more anxiety and stress than are necessary. So you get to see them and you say, like take your hand off the stove. I'm not going down that path. I'm not going to waste time. I'm not going to create unnecessary negative energy, right? I'm going to pause, right? It's the power in the pause. So observing and noticing is saying you take this little 5-minute saboteur assessment. You see some things that may or may not be ideal. It may not be kind of like where you thought you were, how you were showing up with other people. And this is just when they're overused. Some of the saboteurs are like amazing, like the controller, right? Are very strong decision makers. But if you're trying to control other people, then you're taking away their autonomy, right? Their ability to grow and thrive, right? So each of them can be overused and overdone. And that's the observation part. That's the, if you care to up level. Let's talk about that, Debrena. Seeing it, because I know people who've actually seen themselves and decided, I'm going to choose to keep bulldozing people. I'm going to choose to do this thing because it's just easier, right? Like my brain, the reason I say this is neuroscience is because you get to rewrite your neural pathways. You're creating new neural pathways if you choose to. So like they say, once you see something, you can't unsee it. You can see it and choose not to do anything about it, right? So let's talk about that, because the next level is seeing it and intercepting those saboteurs, choosing to do something different. So let's talk about that little gray space between seeing it, not doing anything about it, seeing it and choosing to sometimes do something about it, versus seeing it and saying, you know what? This is not who I want to be. This is not how I want to show up, and I'm going to choose differently. I'm going to let my decisions determine my destiny. Talk a little bit about that kind of gray space between seeing, knowing, and actually doing differently, intercepting those saboteurs.
I think when these things present themselves, if we go, never mind, because we think it's easier, I would challenge people, like, is it really easier if people keep moving away or leaving in your life, or exiting stage left, or if you're a leader and your teams keep falling apart and you just always say it's the team members, versus how do I become a powerful team leader, and people are clamoring to be on your team. You're going to say it's easier to keep losing team members and have to keep recruiting or training new ones. So using that, it's easier to stay in the familiar. I'm going to challenge that.
Yes.
Or if we keep pushing people away in our love relationships, but really what we want is closeness and connection. Is it really easier? And so we can't choose to transform and choose to be lazy. Those two don't go together. Okay. And we can't choose to transform and the status quo and the pull of the status quo prevail. That's why you got to generate the energy from within. You don't have a motivational source that you can make responsible for the energy for the change. You now get to generate and decide if you are really up for the effort, because it takes effort, it takes consistency, it takes energy, all those things, not one time and shot in the arm, but over time, to execute on the deeper work that transformation requires. But if we could just understand the difference it makes in our experience of our lives, nobody would not do it. My goodness.
Yes, everybody should be like, Lord, I want to live powerfully. Oh, I didn't know. And honestly, it's so much easier. Once you see the things, you're like, oh my God, that is so good. Like, ooh, is that me? And if people love you, I believe, and everybody sees things differently, but I believe the reason I like you, Debrena, so much, the reason I love you, and I can use that word generously, often, I think I do. The reason I love you, Debrena, is because you don't let us, if you love us back, you don't actually let us slack off, right? You're gracious, but like if you're saying, Tracy, you said you wanted to ABC, whatever that thing is, right? And if we're not there, you like help us to level up. And I think that's kind of the community piece as well. Let's talk just a little bit about that piece, right? Like you can't do it for someone else. They have to want it. You're not, criticizing someone's choice of a cupcake if they're like, I need that cupcake right now. And I'm right? We're not saying that, but we are saying we're going to show up in support, loving support. And I love you mentioned no judgment. So you're not judging yourselves because we're human. So you're not judging yourselves. No one's perfect. I want to put that out there as well. But we'll just go a little bit deeper before we go to the next topic. I know you have to drop real quick. But let's just talk about that concept of when people are together, right? And we have a desire to get healthier. happier, wealthier, and wiser. And we've already said there's different levels of awareness. I see myself. I see how I interact with other people. I see how, now that I see how this might not be getting me the outcome that I want to intercept that saboteur. I want to do something different. Talk about that concept in community and the power of doing that for yourself, because it comes from within. But let's talk about also the power of doing that in community.
Well, when you bring people together operating from a similar elevated frequency, right? Because you said happier, healthier, wealthier, wiser. That's a certain intention, and that's a certain level of consciousness that will be present because the ER, people want to go higher in those areas. So now we know there's a pure intention in the room that you're joining yours with, because just because it's a group of people, just because it's collectivity or community doesn't automatically equal elevation, because you can collectively bring each other down. So when you come together with that intention being a high vibration of the ER, happier, wiser, healthier, etc., then now what can happen because of the vortex literally created by the presence of all of you lifts and benefits everybody and can help you actually move through the process more quickly than you would if you were doing it individually. So the power of synergy, the power of the uniting of intention, all of that becomes available to us in community. Plus, if you have people in that community that are further ahead, have already chopped down the trees in the path, then you're not up here thinking, no one has ever gone this way, I must try to chop trees with a butter knife. No, if they've gone before you and they have mastery in those said areas, have them in the mix so they can serve as a guide, so they can serve as a facilitator, so they can serve as a coach, so they can serve as a mentor. And too many folks are out here trying to do this work individually instead of understanding the benefit of doing it collectively when there's that shared higher intention.
I love that. I love it. This is so exciting. My final question, Debrena, as we transition, right? We said this concept of the 3 levels of awareness, right? This is leading to transformation. But we also know that transformation is deep work. It's really around the beliefs. Like we talk about limiting beliefs, right? So let's talk a little bit about the next level of transformation, which involves understanding what beliefs are. We've talked about the 5, the 5 levels of human beliefs, the human existence, right? The beliefs, the emotions, all that. But let's talk real quick. You tell us about the difference between beliefs, limiting beliefs, and how that shows up for us as it relates to truly transforming.
Yeah. So if you are entering into the realm of transformation, that means you are dealing with healing. You are dealing with truth, you are dealing with beliefs, you are dealing with love, you are dealing with emotions. Okay, that is unique because those are not necessarily part of the motivational model or the therapeutic model. So in every life area, there are personal truths, even if they're false, even if they're delusional, even if they are inaccurate, that we're operating from. Money, sex, men, marriage, my body, business ownership, my gifts, my talents, communication. We can go through any life area and we have underneath and behind the thoughts, underneath and behind the behavior is something that is sourcing the thoughts and the behavior. Well, what are those things? Those are our personal beliefs. There's collective ones, there's family ones, there's social ones, and there's personal ones. And those are what mostly have the greatest influence on how our lives are unfolding and being experienced. Now, how often do we stop to go beneath our thoughts to say, hold up, what are the falsehoods that I'm treating as if they're truth, that I am living from and operating from and never challenged or questioned in my life? Well, there is a whole ton of them. So we think we're living our lives. No, it's your beliefs that are living your lives, not us. And so when you talk about transformational work, we're now talking about getting out that long-handled shovel and excavating what are those invisible beliefs acting like personal software, right? I can have my cathode ray tube, my monitor on my desktop, but what's powering that thing is the software. So beliefs are like the personal software that's powering our lives. And so if you are about transformational work, which is why it is not for the lighthearted, not for the faint-hearted, is because you now are looking in areas that most of us have not shined a light in. So there's, first of all, becoming aware of what the beliefs are. Most people, that is butt-kicking work because they're like, wait, what? They haven't done it before. The muscle is weak. No one's even asked them about beliefs. They just say, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? What were you thinking? What were you thinking? We're not talking about what you were thinking. We're talking about what gave rise to what you were thinking. That's a whole nother level, right? So belief work is really the intentional excavation work. So you can become aware of what's been running you in all of these different life areas. And then you'll see why your life has manifested, shown up, and been experienced like it's been experienced. The good news is you can heal and replace beliefs. You are not sentenced to the beliefs that got installed. Usually our core beliefs that are running our lives were installed between age 5 and 11. 90% of them, that's when they got installed. And we're still living from those beliefs installed by age 11. Profound. So that's the next level, is crossing over out of preparation to now beginning the transformational work, and belief work is part of that.
I love it. And then we're going to have a special this week. We're focusing on this concept of awareness and the levels of awareness. We're going to go deeper and talk a little bit about beliefs. Next week, we're going to be deep into beliefs, right? And then the week of June 3rd, we're going to actually go even deeper. We're actually going to Nathan, I hope it's okay. My StreamYard is no longer on. Apparently my computer got unplugged again. So as long as we're still going, we're good. Good, okay. Yay. Good job, producer. So, Debrena, we're going to go deeper on June 3rd, and we're going to go and talk about forgiveness. We're going to go even deeper. Tell us what that's about and why that's so important as well. Like getting even deeper than beliefs, cleaning out the junk.
That's exactly what forgiveness does. You know, we say things like, I forgive, but I don't forget, which means you have a misunderstanding about forgiveness. It is not about amnesia or a lobotomy where you remove the part of your brain that has memory. There's so many falsehoods that people have about forgiveness. So we will first need to be sure they understand what it is, what it isn't. And it's not even a religious term. It's really about how we're made as humans and how we can stay in a state of personal freeness. Yeah. So we're not going to do the whole 5-part forgiveness process because for it to be comprehensive, a full round has 5 parts to it. We're going to do a piece of it, which also could be very useful because most people have done no healing related forgiveness work. So it really is personal liberation. It's a personal liberation process, spiritual, emotional, mental, and eventually physical, because what we don't clean out will manifest over time in our bodies and often as dis-ease and sickness. So that's what we'll be doing a little of on the 3rd, is actual forgiveness work.
Thank you so much, Debrena. Any final words that you want to share with anyone on the importance of this work, just this level, the fact that we're taking this so methodically and we're saying, you know, information is important, but awareness, beliefs, forgiveness, this activation, true transformation. Any final words as we talk about how exciting this is and why we're inviting people to really do this work in this way?
Well, this work is essential because on this side of the pandemic, we are in the worst, and I've been doing transformational work and personal development work for over 25 years. We are in the worst spiritual, mental, and emotional condition of the last 25 plus years. So we're in a very unique state that is very dangerous personally and dangerous collectively. And the way out is transformation, which includes that work you talked about. So We've tried all these other things. We've been experimenting in America with all these different things. And here we are right back at still feeling unsatisfied, unfulfilled, and stressed the hell out. So what's wrong? We've been trying to do the instant success instead of from a place of deep transformation, which is true holistic sustained success. So this is it whose time has come, and it's up for everybody because of the phase of the American journey, because we're in a country having a journey. You're having a journey. So it's critical and essential for the time. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Debrena. We love you. More to come. Y'all, we're going to be live right here in this room with an extended panel, insights from Debrena and others as it relates to this journey of truly living powerfully. So join us right here at 6 p.m. in person at Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Baptist Church, or online. We'll be live broadcasting here as well. And so more to come. But again, this is about you doing this for you and us showing up to get better, to get healthier, happier, wealthier, and wiser. Stay with us.